Record. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our office hour number 47 for APM Product Roadmap and Fitness Conversation. We have our awesome senior product success managers and product manager here of the product who will be walking us through APM today. So as a reminder of the format for those who are not familiar with it, the first 30 minutes is all about covering the topic nature, having a good dialogue related to that, grounding us in the framework and the foundations and best practices that us here at ServiceNow would like for you as the customer to understand when it comes to this product. The remaining half of the time, the remaining 30 minutes is open for any questions or comments that you guys have in the field. So feel free to unmute yourselves or type in your question during the chat. If there's a topic or a question you have while they're covering the topics, feel free to put that into the chat window and we can take a quick pause to answer those questions. If not, we'll push those off to the end of the session to get us some good time to cover those topics. The other thing is, for those who are just looking at this through the video, which is very popular these days, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to those that are emailed that you can see in the presentation deck that's showing on the screen right now, as well as post some of your questions within the community window, and we'll try to respond as soon as possible. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Tabby Voss and Doran Orbach.
Awesome. Thank you, Charles. So my name is Tabby Voss, and I want to welcome you to our very first iteration of monthly office hours hosted by the APM team. I am a senior product success manager focused on APM growth and maturity for existing customers. I work out of the DC area, and I am joined by Doran Orbach, who is the senior inbound product manager for APM. So we're going to be hosting these monthly in accordance with the customer success schedule. And as Charles mentioned, we really look forward to your feedback on what sort of topics you'd be most interested in. We did want to kick off with a discussion on product maturity because we assume most of our attendees have APM. They're looking to explore more depth in the product. So we're going to review our product maturity model today, in addition with our product agnostic fitness model adherence. And then Doran is going to give you a quick look at the upcoming roadmap for APM. Next month, we're going to run through the digital portfolio management tool, which is available on the store, and it serves as a visualization tool that looks at end-to-end life cycle of a digital product, which could consist of services and or applications. So it's really cool functionality that's coming out. So we're going to kick off with product maturity models, and just full disclosure, these are a little bit on the older side. We created them in the product success group to show you a crawl, walk, run approach through the lens of our APM product and other tools on the platform. So I think this is a pretty relevant view, but we're also going to mature this to align with the fitness model that I'm going to show you next. Fitness model is 5 levels, and it's more targeted to the discipline of APM as opposed to our product. So kind of looking across, depth of application portfolio management as a discipline. Because it's product agnostic, it's focused on being good at the discipline as opposed to the product, but we're going to show you where we fit in and how we support it. And our next step is going to be aligning the two. So we'll kick off with the product maturity model. This is where we talk about product maturity through the lens of our APM product in a crawl, walk, run view, so that you can work on creating a functional roadmap for growth within your organization. So level 1 is really defined as having a robust application inventory, and that gives you a basic level of visibility into your applications and potential categories or groupings of those applications. So you generally have your owners defined at this level. You have processes in place for maintaining and updating your data in order to keep your repository up to date. Everything here is about basic data updates and mapping. And you get there by having your application services defined, by having an operational CMDB, having a business architecture defined via CSDM framework alignment. Then as you move to level 2, you start to get a little bit more mature in the tool, and we start leveraging the group analysis and rationalization functions within APM. So you're starting to measure the indicators of an application. You're sending out assessments. You're considering what should or should not be in your portfolio. Through the course of that, you're also looking at demands and projects, if you're using those in ITBM, and then weaving in PPM. You might also be looking at your technology life cycles via integration with SAM and HAM. You might be expanding into information objects. That would be predicated on having your information portfolio defined, but otherwise, again, discovery, service mapping, and then starting to look at ITOM and ITAM integration. And then the furthest level of maturity is level 3, and that's really doing strategic alignment. So it's great that we have business capabilities, but is the work that we're doing actually aligned to those capabilities? So asking the hard questions. Are we doing advanced rationalization and getting ahead of risks and decisions around the technology portfolio? This is a little bit harder to define in level 3 because you're using capabilities in the prior phases, but using them differently, right? It's a bit of a more mature look. So that's why I prefer to look at the fitness journey for these higher levels, because I think it better defines the work that you'll be doing as part of the discipline. It's less functional use of the system and more operational use and strategic planning. So let me jump right over into that and show you what that looks like. So the fitness model, again, is a product agnostic view of maturity. So you could use this with any tool. We call it the fitness journey model. I have a guide that I can send you that, gives you an overview of each of the different levels, different behavioral characteristics at each level, and gives you a high level overview of how to begin your own journey towards APM fitness, or I'm pretty sure it's on the website somewhere. So I will look for that. So we'll start with level 1, and I'll go through each of these levels individually and then show you how it aligns to the product. So we're going to start with level 1, which is basic application inventory. So at level 1, organizations are really just beginning to understand the digital assets that they've got in their organization. This is progress from having a complete absence of an asset inventory, but it's still highly limited. So at this point, tracking is usually done through spreadsheets. There's a reliance on manual supply, updates of data, and this usually results in an inaccurate, incomplete, or outdated inventory. And that can sometimes be worse than no inventory at all, because it's creating a false sense of security around information. You don't have enough information to make good decisions. To make good decisions, you need a complex and time-consuming mining of data warehouses to validate and use information. So this is very basic. Most organizations are past this level, but this is an example of filling out the application table via the CI. So that's very basic. And then we move into level 2, which is an IT-focused understanding of applications. And the key characteristics here is the shift of assets into a central repository that allows for better tracking and management. So at this stage, the focus is still on capturing and maintaining information in a timely manner. The owners of those digital assets are still expected to manually maintain a lot of the elements, but the ability to integrate with the enterprise technology infrastructure supports some automation of those elements as well. So this allows for the development of trends. It supports the very beginning of effective management of your portfolio. Having good visibility for your business stakeholders and your technology stakeholders is going to improve the completeness and the accuracy of the data that you capture, and it creates a good foundation for those higher maturity levels. So I would say it also probably supports the evolution of the inventory from individual elements to a network of related components. So you're starting to see more of a true portfolio view, and this is a good way that we can find it in the system via APM. So kind of looking at all of those related objects that are connected to the business application so that you understand the entire breadth and depth of your product. Level 3, this is aligning applications to the business. So I would say effective application portfolio management isn't necessarily about technical capability. It's also about business performance. So to move from merely maintaining an inventory of applications to managing an integrated portfolio, you really need to understand how those digital assets support things like business capabilities or business strategies. At this level, you'll generally be mapping your application inventory to business capabilities so that you've got an enterprise-wide understanding of how applications and the underlying platforms that they run on support all elements of business performance. And this is going to give your technology leaders the context that they need to be able to manage the app portfolio effectively, right? So if you understand the various components and how they support current operations and future plans, that context is going to give you a basis for refining the data further, to give you more insights and lead to more improved automated data capture. Then you're managing things more effectively. So it's becoming a more effective tool for you to support the business as opposed to just supporting IT. Many organizations kind of stop here and they're satisfied, but there's further you can go. There's more depth in the discipline if you want to be able to optimize performance. And that's where you start getting into that level 3 on our product maturity journey that I was describing earlier. So this is, an example of our business capabilities screen, where we talk through the score of the business capabilities, the hierarchy of the capabilities, and how they align to applications. Okay, level 4. So this is rationalization, right? APM at this level is really a tool for proactively improving the business. Your IT leaders can start to make decisions around digital assets specifically to improve business capabilities and specifically to enhance, the execution of strategies. So you're doing rationalization, you're doing modernization, you're identifying areas of risk and exposure so that you can address them. So the application portfolio, it's gone from, a list of applications to this valuable tool that can be used throughout IT and the business to be able to support decisions, right? So things like information security or regulatory compliance, privacy, financial planning. It is enabled to now inform smart decision making, which should enable improved management of everything: strategic investments, tactical support requirements. You've got a really comprehensive window into your digital assets, which is a vital prerequisite for digital transformation. And here's an example of our group analysis. So you can see your application roadmap. And then level 5, this is complete integration between the technology and the business functions. So it's the highest level. It is perhaps a little bit aspirational, but it embodies a true integration of both functions. And that happens through total visibility, total transparency into the portfolio by all business areas and all technology capabilities. Your app portfolio can be viewed by all stakeholders. They're doing it in a context that's relevant to them so that they become valuable contributors to strategic decisions. And as those business and technology decisions become more closely intertwined over time, the app portfolio becomes really an extension of the view into how the business operates. So the ability to rely on your portfolio this way is driven by that integration and automation of the portfolio data. All of your enterprise platforms are integrated. Application portfolio is providing data that's always accurate, complete, it's current, and it's reliable. And because of that stability, it lets management focus on things like operational oversight and management, which just sort of like snowballs, right? You get more efficiency, more effectiveness. You can also track metrics for these models. And that's something that, we've been working on in product success, creating metrics that make sense so that you can target where you are on these levels and kind of the value that you see in the tool. So you can have metrics that get created that support placing you in any of these levels. It's just a matter of creating those point in time measurements and then tracking them. So basically, you're going to want to take a baseline on your activities and your table usage at a certain point, and then compare that to where you are later and do a trend. And that's also going to give you a good idea of, organizational adoption as you spread it out. I can talk to you about, what those metrics might be at each of these levels, but I don't want to run out of time for questions and for Doran's content. So I'm just kind of leave that there, especially as we're still building it. But if you're interested, please feel free to reach out and I can talk you through what I'm considering. Beyond those metrics, we've also got APM specific KPIs. So you've got operational metrics, you've got KPIs, and you also have something called critical success factors, which talks to value realization. And value management as a topic is a huge discussion. And I don't want to open that Pandora's box on this call because it could be like an entire hour of discussion on its own. So I can absolutely do that on another office hours if there's interest. But at a high level, value tracking is important because it tells a story around investments that you've made and investments that you'd like to make. It's a justification for spend, but it's also a commitment internally to continuous improvement. So you want to be able to measure your maturity, improve your maturity, and also support the best possible outcomes. So this isn't like a one-time process to justify spend that you've made so much as an ongoing process to make sure that you're operating efficiently and strategically. Within the tool, there are multiple metrics you can track. So you've got, again, all of these operational ones. These shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Key performance indicators that you get via doing your assessments and your indicators in the system. And then the critical success factors. Operational metrics usually show up on dashboards. KPIs would light up in the workspaces like group analysis or capability. And then critical success factors are those business focused metrics that speak to outcomes. And you can usually decide what you want to measure based on your desired outcomes. So it really helps to start there. So let's talk about maybe some metrics you could create that would speak to outcomes and ones that could leverage other data on the platform. Things that I'm thinking about as I craft this methodology is, what about creating a business value metric where you're calculating what percentage of your demands and project and executable work relate to application CIs? Because if you understand the value of the demand and project work that relates to applications, and you also understand the breadth of your demand and project investment, so dollars, putting dollars to it, you can work out the increased visibility of APM into your PPM portfolio, right? You could also look at the business value delivered by each application compared to the business value delivered by supporting strategic business goals. You could score applications on things like strategic alignment, business process impact, direct payback, risk, revenue. You could also look at like resource optimization against different applications. There's also the fundamental options like elimination of redundant applications. So creating a report that shows you, how much you saved by eliminating applications that had duplicate functions or capabilities. You could do percentage of business applications by business process or capability, or applications aligned to strategic initiatives, labor, incidents, changes, project by business criticality. So you're looking at things with a different lens, right? Not just looking at, how many incidents or changes or projects we had by application, but by business criticality. So you're using a different grouping. You could look at things like obsolescence. So the number of technologies that aren't complying with your technology standards is definitely on the strategic side. So that's just a few examples of like what exists in the product and things that you could create to be able to create or fortify a value realization endeavor within your organization. And again, if that kind of thing interests you, please reach out to me because I'm working on it now and I'd love some extra input. Before I pass the ball to Doran to look at the future roadmap for APM, I did want to direct you to our community page, which I think you should all be familiar with. So I've got it popped up here. So if you search forums for ITVM, there's a solution-specific learning section for APM. Office hours is where you find the office hours content. So it's just below. We're keeping the APM section up to date with scalable content that includes best practice guidance on things like maturity, things like different use cases. We've got information on CSTM alignment. So if you can like log into there, I think you have to be logged in to be able to bookmark it, then you will get updates when we update it with new content. And that's actually everything that I wanted to show you today. So Doran, are you good if I pass you the ball?
There was one quick question before we
Sure.
pass the ball. Brett had asked about, actually, Brett, if you want to unmute yourself, you go ahead and read out your comment there.
Yeah, maybe it's some feedback on the product, Tabby, but
Mhm.
I mean, one thing I always struggle with is how to link some of the underlying Snow data models to the visualization tools.
I've actually got a
Yeah.
file that our customer outcomes team created that does just that. And I would be happy to
Nice.
send it to you. Have you
That'd be
seen
great.
our Now Create collateral?
No, and I probably haven't been on the community either, so maybe I need to look there.
Okay.
To
I
start.
don't think I have it linked to the APM site just yet, but if you search Now Create, there is an amount of collateral. I'll see if I can find it while we're talking. That our own ServiceNow implementation team has created to help partners and to help customers self-implement. They're called success packs, but you can also search, let's see, for just specific collateral, and they have one that walks through all the data elements within APM and where it aligns.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time finding it, but I'll try to do it by the end of the call. So while Doran's talking, I'll look for it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tabby. So
course.
what I'll do now is present the planned roadmap for APM, which is taking off where Tabby started. And let me share my screen. And I hope that you can see it now.
Yes.
Okay, great. So first, of course, this is a forward-looking roadmap. So this is the forward-looking statement for it. And of course, this roadmap might change and we adjust it all the time based on customer inputs and sessions like this. And first, this is what we have today. And Tabby presented it. This is from a product view, from the APM product view, the different kinds of things they can do with the product, which are application rationalization, business capability planning, and aligning the applications and the things that you are demanding on your applications to the capabilities, and checking which capabilities served in a good way and which is served in a lesser way and you should improve on it. The ability to run technology risk management, which generally helps you to view the life cycles of software and hardware and to connect them not just on the asset level, but also to connect them to the business application level, so you can measure risk on the business applications and remove technology risk and solve technology debt on them. And the information asset inventory, which helps you in general to understand which kind of information you are passing in your applications, and if there is a privacy concerns over there or privacy considerations on the information assets. And the last, of course, is the ability to roll it all to actual planning by the ability to create demands, to create programs based on what's going on. For example, if you want to rationalize app, to resolve technical debt, and the ability also eventually to track these demands and to understand the roadmap for a specific business application based on these demands. So this is all what is existing today in the product. And from this, let's see what are the strategic priorities for the next releases of APM. And the first one is kind of clear from where ServiceNow is going. One of the things that we are doing in ServiceNow is modernizing the user experience, moving it to a new level. And this is something we are planning to do also in APM. One of the main things that we are planning to enhance is what we call the Enterprise Architect Workspace, which will be a more top-level design workspace for Enterprise Architect to control the features that we have today and to get more tools of visualizations like heat maps and diagrams, and in general also to resolve better navigations and to add more reports and dashboards to the applications, which I think is something that can be improved in the product today. The next item is the ability to do stories that relate several products together and to get more value, mainly with the asset management and the operation management, but also with tools like GRC. And in the upcoming release, the main thing that we are building is the ability to create what we call a technology standard or a technology reference model, which will enable customers to select software that is being standard in the organization and to approve it. And for example, it can be that you approve software for database category, and you are saying that you allow Postgres and Oracle to be part of the technology reference model in the organization, but other database technology is not the standard in the organization. This is on the first level. On the second level, customers will also be able to decide that specific versions of software are approved to be used and what is the life cycle, the internal life cycle of this software. So if we want to sunset software even before the end of official life cycle of the vendor, we will be able to do it. And we will be able also to refer and to look if this is an approved technology or not. And from the side of business owners, a business owner will be able to look into his business application and to understand whether he's using technologies that are part of the technology reference model or that are not part of the technology reference model, and then he will be able to act based on this, maybe to ask to add them to be part of the technology reference model, or to create some kind of a demand to resolve it on his business applications, so he will not have this technical debt or even technical usage of software that is not approved. And we've seen in cases like the Log4j, the recent Log4j, the importance of understanding what is the software that you're using and if it's really a software that is allowed, and this is on the green side of things and is not software that is not approved to be used in the organization. And we are going to continue to work on several more use cases together with asset management and ITOM, for example, to enable understanding better the cloud migration and which applications better fit to move to the cloud, to see SecOps. So, for example, to see which applications have more vulnerabilities than others, and so on. The third item is the ability for enterprise architect to plan the world. So today we present diagrams, and Tabi showed one diagram of the existing state of the architecture, the current architecture of the application. But in many cases, you would want to paint the world what will be in the future, what is the expected architecture of this business application, or if it's capabilities, and you want to paint it and to categorize it for future use cases. And for this, we'll want to have modeling tools which enable you to start from the starting point of the current design or start from scratch, depending on the use case, and draw the architecture, the future architecture. It can also be used by application owners if they want to go to approval of enterprise architects for their planned usage of architecture. They can paint the future architecture and then submit it to enterprise architecture board for review. In the first phases, we are going to create some integrations with existing tools. For example, as you can see, the ability to integrate with tools like Lucidcharts, which are very popular by several enterprise architects, or with Visio, which are tools that are becoming standard to be leveraged for drawing. And in the future, we also look into adding our own capabilities of modeling within the product, within the tool, so you will be able to drag artifacts like tables or configuration items and to add them to enterprise architecture for future roadmaps of an application or a certain architecture that needs to be modeled. The last part where we're focusing is to add more core enterprise architect capabilities. For example, one of the first things that we're doing and looking into is the ability to do API and integration management. As you saw, a lot of the focus that we spend on APM is the applications. It's the application portfolio management. But one of the things that is growing in its importance in many architecture in organizations is the ability to use APIs and to be a more service-oriented provider. And in order to achieve the compliance for this and to show how this API supports the business, because a lot of work is spent on building this API, maintaining them, securing them, of course, it's one of the big things. An API, of course, entry point, so they can always have a risk. It is really important to document which APIs the organization has, which integrations are using this specific API, which data objects are passing via these APIs, so this can be managed in full transparency. And other areas like customer journeys and process mapping and business process mappings, for which we will, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, will enhance more diagrams and capabilities to visualize things in new ways. So it will be easier to build this process mapping and customer journey maps within the visualization tools. So these are the four main strategic areas in which we are going to invest the direction in APM. As you can see, a lot of them are going to what enterprise architect as a persona needs. So the product is orienting itself towards solving more of the problems of enterprise architect and giving them more tools and capabilities to better design the future of the organization and to align the technical roadmap to the business capabilities and the goals, the business goals of the organization. In terms of releases, at the current point, we are can say things more clearly for the Tokyo release, which is our upcoming release, which will contain more of the technology reference model and technology standards, which I mentioned, the ability to integrate with Lucid, and also the ability to create and keep all these diagrams and documents that we are working on as enterprise architect, to keep them as part of the architectural artifact library and to be able to categorize this library and assign all these artifacts to the category. And if we look towards the end of the year, we aiming to have the workspace, the enterprise architect workspace, which will be a new user interface, a new way to interact with the APM. Of course, it will take us more than one release to enhance the end-to-end capabilities there, but this is a journey that we are starting to take towards the end of the year. And then there are more of the things that I mentioned in our strategy coming up in more of the future releases. So this is in general our roadmap for APM, and we can stop here, and if there are any questions on this, I will be happy to answer them.
Hey, Doran, can you clarify your Visio and architecture library? Is this more storage, or is this also creation and linkage to the underlying CSTM data model?
So at the first stage, we are going to create integrations between external tools like Lucid Charts or Visio. This will be more the ability to store them and to create a starting point. So for example, you will be able to export an existing business application diagram to Lucid Charts and to start to paint based on this, but it will not be at the first stage connected directly to the tables or to the CIs in ServiceNow. at least at the first stage. Future phases will try to do this two-way integration where once you change something in the design, in the architecture, it will also create a linkage or a reference to ServiceNow items. And in the more future, I would say in the long-term future, we are planning to create our own modeling tool, which will then have full cycle with ServiceNow objects to be able to drag object, connect them, and so on. Did this answer the question, Brett?
Thank you for the clarity.
Sure.
I'm wondering if you've looked at architecture modeling languages like Archimate as a way to visualize and standardize your input and output. Doran, I think Archimate also has an XML language for Exchange. It might be a bit more flexible as you think about your future.
Thank you. That's a good reference. No, I didn't. So I will review it. Thank you, Brett.
Great. Any other questions or comments? It looks like Brett, you had another one interjected in there. This is the time where it's pretty much open for any questions or comments from the field. So if you guys have anything that you want to ask of the subject matter experts from the beginning, what Tabby had covered, as well as what Doran had just covered, feel free to take yourselves off mute and go ahead and just ask away.
Charles, quick question. Can we send you the deck for the recording as well in case anybody needs it?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
All right. And then while we're going through our last bit of questions, we have a couple minutes left. I did launch the office hour feedback poll. So for those who are here, feel free to fill those out. That helps us to continue these office hours with any feedback that you have. But are there any open-ended questions at this time for the subject matter experts that we have on APM?
Hey, yeah, this is Kyle. Can we discuss a little bit the tie-in between service mapping and the technology risk use case of APM? You know, I'm just kind of trying to understand how critical it is to have service mapping to be able to achieve those sorts of technology roadmaps. Or is it something, I mean, is it helpful but not required?
Sure, I am actually just pulling up a slide to see if I can show you this in a picture. Give me one sec. All right, I am going to share my screen. This, I think, is the best picture that defines it. So service mapping helps to create within TPM the link between the application and the underlying application services. So if you look at the TPM screen, I'm not sure if I have this in my deck as well, it organizes natively by business applications and the underlying application services. And then under the application services, you see the hardware and software models that relate to those application services. So what service mapping does, and I do think it's pretty core to this, is create that link between the application and the application service, so that you then have the technology models that you can associate. And that's about as deep as I can get, not actually being an implementation services. Doran, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, no, that's a good summary of the ability to see the technology. So you will need to have the technology lifecycle. You will need to have the software asset management and the ability to map it to business application. But can you please repeat again the question? Was this the question? Or?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand how important it is to do it with service mapping versus maybe the alternative is creating some of the relationships manually.
Yeah, this can definitely be done if you have visibility into what software is used in business application and so on. It can also be done in a manual way.
Okay, thank you.
Tabby, you're showing a TPM roadmap now, and I thought earlier in the talk you showed an application roadmap, perhaps. If that's one
Oh, I did. I think that's in a different screen entirely. So this is the technology portfolio management, which is where the application services are visible,
Mhm.
where the underlying software and hardware models from Ham and Sam would populate.
And can you compare and contrast that to the roadmap you showed earlier?
Oh, sure. Let me just try to find that. I think I closed that file. I don't know if it's in this one. May not be. Give me a sec. Let's see if I can find it. It was in here.
Yeah, okay.
So this shows you the investments that are attached to this application, but it doesn't go down to application service or technology.
Okay, so this is more applications to demands and projects.
Exactly. Yep. So you'll see it kind of looks like that investment portal view.
Okay.
Yep. And you can kind of regroup this as you will.
I don't think
But
I've seen that in our service now, but that may be because we're on Paris or something.
okay, I'll see if I can find out where it is and send it out.
Mhm. Where do you see most of your customers being at? Have you showed us that 5-level
Yeah,
maturity model?
Honestly, between 1 and 2. So we do have a lot of customers that are still at that phase where they're trying to define the CSDM alignment, getting their CMDB up to date and current and complete, and understanding what's an application, what is an application service, creating an application inventory, and just starting to kind of connect business capabilities to those applications, or they have very immature application assessments, and they're working on doing that rationalization exercise for the first time. Which is why I'm honestly glad to be doing these office hours on fitness and maturity, because it is targeting all of those customers that are looking to get more mature and more depth in the product.
Thank you.
Yep.
Brett, was your question specific to like on the APS instance, how do I get to that that portal to see these types of views?
The application roadmap is one I just haven't seen, and then maybe I just missed it. The technology, whatever the TPM one I've seen before.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll look offline on that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns at this point?
Charles, one that Brett mentioned earlier that we may have missed was the white paper fitness model. Will we package all of the items to this audience? Could that be included?
As long as Tabby provides that link, you bet.
Absolutely. And actually, it should already be in my community site for APM. If you look there, it should be there, but we'll make sure to link it separately.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I had one quick question on technical debt, technical risk tracking and ServiceNow. And just looking for among the tools like APM being able to capture those insights, governance, risk, and compliance module, those sorts of things. Is there a preferred mechanism to track technical debt, technical risk across a landscape? And how do people typically achieve that?
Doran, that might be something you'd be better positioned. I don't run into it often. So it might be something I'd have to pull our outcomes team for.
So what is the goal? You want to achieve technical risk within the entire landscape and not within specific business application?
Kind of like the equivalent of a risk register in TOGAF terms that allows you to track technical debt throughout the organization, the impact of it, potential cost of remediation, those sorts of things.
And how do you define technical debt?
Technical debt meaning in the course of project execution, for example, there's always trade-offs balancing near-term constraints versus long-term risk. So a lot of companies will maintain a risk register of IT, potentially being down rev, security vulnerabilities, those kind of things, but have those correlate so that when we're in shaping the investment portfolios, we're aligning those outcomes, in future projects to remediate, gaps or risk.
Yes. So the current two things that you can do is one to associate the only thing that TPM allows you, which is the life cycles. You can also decide on your own internal life cycle. So this might represent better the technical depths, in the association that you can do. And as I mentioned in the next release, will also allow you to more declare technology that is approved or disapproved, and also to set standards for this technology. For example, if this is emerging technology or sunsetting, and then you will be able to have one report that shows you all the technology that is being used, for example, and is in a sunset mode, or that is in a different associated mode. But I'm not so much familiar with the model that you specify. So if this doesn't answer it, maybe we can take it offline and discuss it. I would be happy to understand what would you register in the technology risk association.
I almost wonder if it could be done via the application assessments or the capability assessments, because when you measure technical debt, it doesn't really mean much unless it's in a business focus, right? Like via a capability or maybe articulated as risk to that capability. So like I'm comparing like technical debt to technical risk, which is business risk. That is how I would do it, is via the assessments.
That's the within the APM module, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, good questions. Good questions. No, nothing but good update then from Brett. Any other questions, comments? We have about 7 minutes left. Anything at all? So I'm going to start the countdown. Going once. Going twice.
Sold.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for attending the office hour. For those who are listening to the video and watching the video, like I said before, make sure you have any questions, reach out to us via the community page. We'll do our best to respond to those. For those who attended the call live, thank you so much for your questions. And then definitely continue looking forward to our next APM office hour. So great and exciting things ahead. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, team.
Well, bye.